Now to the right brain. Talking about chapter 5, and this is, as I mentioned in the previous video, this is really the culmination in my mind of all that you've done for your doctoral project. And sadly, oftentimes this can be the anticlimax of a person's doctoral project. We're advocating the former. And so the goal here is for you to trot out all that you know in terms of you're uniquely positioned. You've been immersed in the literature. If you're doing a theoretical analysis, there will be very few people that have read as much currently as you've read. So why not then now apply all that you've read, that context, to now interpreting your findings? Let me give an example just from the workshop. We have someone that we've been working with who's interested in looking at supplementing cognitive behavioral approaches in the military for working with trauma, specifically as it results in generalized anxiety disorder. He's interested in supplementing a typical manualized approaches to working with GAD by using CBT, by bringing in psychospiritual approaches, and specifically mindfulness meditation. And so he will have been immersed in the literature of generalized anxiety disorder as applied to veteran populations, looking at various cognitive behavioral strategies, manualized approaches, and so on, and also be immersed, for now we'll just say, in the literature of mindfulness meditation. Those are all significant literatures. He will then have gleaned down from all of that what might be an important and helpful addition to cognitive behavioral approaches under the umbrella of mindfulness meditation. And when you move into chapter 5, I'm going to use this as an example of what this might look like. What you want to do is you want to connect the dots here. And so you look for strengths in cognitive behavioral approaches. You'd also look for limitations in cognitive behavioral approaches. Look for the strengths that might help fill some of the gaps in cognitive behavioral approaches. Look for the strengths of mindfulness meditation. And this is a chance for you then to begin to point directions where scholarly activity might be furthered in terms of future research. How might this be applied clinically? What might this look like? This would be a place where you might provide practical steps of how you would apply this to a clinical population, or how you might utilize it in training of therapists who are working with this population. This is a place for you to be creative. When I say right brain, it's a chance for you to think holistically. You've been down in the specifics of your literature review in chapter 2. You've worked your methods. You come up with the central findings. Here's what I found that works in CBT. Here's what I find that works in mindfulness meditation. Now, here's the model I propose, and here's what it looks like. Here are implications for my profession. So any suggestions for future research would be included in chapter 5. As I mentioned, professional, practical applications. Also, any limitations. And one way to talk about this, I think back to Dr. Shaw's presentation, is that let's say there's an infinite literature in any one of these directions. You can study the whole literature of anxiety and never come up for ever again. And I dare say the literature of mindfulness meditation over the last 30 years is a very substantial literature. So you, by definition, have to limit yourself to a period of time. I've studied the literature in mindfulness meditation from 2007 to the present, let's say. And here's a limitation I thought of this morning, is that there may well be some important research going on in Düsseldorf right now, but I don't speak German. And so I have to acknowledge that I've referred only to English-speaking journals until some of this stuff gets translated. Just some way to acknowledge that the English-speaking world and America aren't the final frontier when it comes to research. There's fantastic research going on all over the planet. So that'd be another way to just describe up front. Here's some limitations built into my study. And delimitations, I chose not to study the entire history of Western humankind. I chose to focus on the literature from 2007 to the present. All of this you bring into the discussion section. This is where you bring your humanness. Now there's the possibility, I was thinking of this morning as well, that to be creative and holistic does not equate with being expansive. And so one rule of thumb that Dr. Fisher has shared with us is that when you're summarizing, again, we're going to apply whatever discussion you make to your research questions. Let's say that you have 5 research questions. Dr. Fisher suggests no more than 1 or 2 paragraphs per question. So we're not talking about writing War and Peace in chapter 5 here. It is a chance for you to be creative, but it's also, in the spirit of all previous chapters, it's incumbent upon you as the writer to be selective in your language. And as we talked about in our presentation on Wednesday, less is oftentimes more, including in chapter 5. Let me just say one final word about chapter 5. You'll summarize, and as you go out of your doctoral project and you go out of chapter 5, may I recommend that you finish on a strong, solid note. Speak with confidence, speak assertively. They're really, you may not have this felt sense as a student, and many of us have studied for a lot of years by the time we get to the doctoral dissertation or project, but you surely are one of the handful of experts on the planet if you dive this deeply into a topic, and I think your writing should speak with that kind of authority. So I want to encourage that you finish not with a whimper, but with a bang. Okay, that's chapter 5.